Okay, it's great to see everybody. How is everybody doing this morning?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, super. Why don't we start with the traditional blessing? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'tav v'tivanu v'asok b'divrei Torah. Okay, excellent. Cool. Okay. Should I share the today's content, or does everyone have it?
Share, please.
Share,
Okay,
please.
very good, very good. Okay. Okay, is everybody seeing the dot 51?
Yes.
All right. And okay, super. So Linda, how would you enjoy reading the beginning with what Rava said?
Starting already? Aren't you gonna give
Okay.
people a get in first?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
no, me. Rava said,
Aren't you gonna wait, give a chance for people to get in first? I mean, it's just 9 o'clock now.
Okay.
I was trying to say.
well, we've
Okay.
already said the blessing.
Oh, gosh.
And just about everybody who's usually here is here
Probably not. Devorah's not there. Oh, she probably won't be there because of, okay.
because she's doing, yes,
Oh,
Okay.
somebody who needs to come in. All right. And,
probably Miriam.
yeah, she's coming in. Okay, very good. All right. Okay, so there's plenty of material here. So if somebody comes in a few minutes, there'll still be plenty for them to learn from. So yeah, okay,
Oh, I didn't plug it in.
So can I go on?
absolutely. Hit
Okay.
it. Okay, cool.
Rava said, this halakha applies only in a case where, were he to run to the trunk of the tree, he could reach it before the onset of Shabbat. Abai said to him, but doesn't the Mishnah state, and it grew dark while he was traveling, indicating that he is farther away than that?
Okay, very good. Now I noticed next to where it says where, comma, where he to run to the trunk, there's an N indicating a note. So would you like to also read the halacha and the right immediately to the right in the right-hand column, Linda?
Okay.
Okay.
One can only establish residence in a distant location if he is capable of reaching it by nightfall, even if he can only do so by running. If he can reach the location by running, he need not actually run, but may proceed slowly. However, if one cannot reach it even by running, he does not establish as a residence. This is in accordance with the second version of Rava's statement.
All right. Does anyone have any thoughts on what we've just read before we go on?
Yeah, that how far you can go on Shabbat it depends on how strong, fast, and maybe young you are.
Okay, very good. All right. So why don't we continue learning more? Jay, how would you like to continue with the first Gemara? The Gemara answers.
The Gemara answers, the Mishnah means that it grew dark while he was traveling, so that he can no longer return to his house before nightfall. However, he is able to go to the trunk of the tree before Shabbat. Some state a different version of the previous statement. Rava said, the Mishnah means it grew dark while he was traveling, so that were he to walk very slowly, he could not reach his house. However, if he runs, he can still arrive before Shabbat.
Okay. Very good. Jay, would you like to read the corresponding halacha now, or should we read it later? Because I see a little H after the word arrive. Jay, assuming means the halacha. Which would you prefer?
Didn't we just do that?
Well, we just read the Gemara, but if we scroll down to the notes section, or actually, hold on, it's a lot of stuff to move around. We did read the halacha, so I guess we've covered the halacha. You're right.
I should have read the note.
Okay.
So why don't we have,
Jay, read the note.
yes.
Okay, very good. So Jay, would you like to read the first note where he would have run to the trunk of the tree? So we all hear
Where were he to run to the trunk of the tree?
Aha.
One who establishes his Eruv with his feet only acquires his residence when he actually arrives in that place. Consequently, although the sages were lenient with him and did not require his presence in the location when he establishes the Eruv, he must nevertheless arrive there by nightfall, or at least be in a position to do so.
All right. I'll scroll back up.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Robert.
Okay. I am at the super effect of the changing of the length of day
Yes.
or the shortening of day. When we're learning with the rabbis when someone could run to the tree or not, this and that, are these homes or these imaginary distances that they're talking about establishing only from one Shabbat to the next, or do they go for a month, or they go for a year? Do you have to do this every Shabbat? Measure the length?
I don't, hold on, let me admit, Devorah. Well, Robert, I think
I could hold off and we'll find it later, but I'd really like to know how long is it good for?
I think the concern at hand is really only for the duration of a particular Shabbat. And that's kind of where this is going. But how would you like to read the next piece of Gemara? Rabba and Rav Yosef were going. How would you like to read that?
I'll do that.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you all again. Oh, thank you.
Okay, we are
Devorah.
at
Happy birthday, Devorah.
Happy birthday, Devorah. Yes, Devorah. So we're on the third paragraph of Eruvin 51a, starting with Rabba and Rav Yosef were going together.
Thank you.
Okay, hit it.
And Deborah should be coming along shortly. I just sent her the link.
Okay, good. Okay, Robert.
Rabbah and Rav Yosef were going together along the way. Rabbah said to Rav Yosef, "Our residence will be beneath the palm that carries its brother." I like that. The one with another palm tree leaning on it. And some say, he said to him, "Our residence will be beneath the palm that spared its owner from the land tax, karga, the palm which yielded enough dates for its owner to pay the entire land tax." And that karga, land tax, off to the right, refers to karga, which is from the ancient Persian yekidi, meaning land tax.
Okay, very good. So we're beginning of this discussion between Rabbah and Yosef.
I like that.
And why don't we continue the discussion? Reuben, would you like to read? Rabbah asked, does the master know of that tree?
Get the link? Oh, okay.
It's the
Just
fourth one
Rabbi
down.
asked- Rabbi asked, does the master know
Mhm.
of that tree? Rav Yosef said to him, no, I don't know of it. He said to him, they rely on me as it was taught. The Braita that Rav Yossi says, if two people were walking together, one of them is familiar with the particular location in the distance, and one is not familiar with it. The one who is not familiar with it entrusts his right to designate his residence to the one who is familiar with it. And the one who is familiar with it says, my residence is in such and such a place.
Okay. So let's see.
This would be a good time to bring together Robert's question, how long does this last? And
No.
Miriam's observation, the distance you can travel depends upon your youth and strength and speed. Again, remember that there was no such thing as timekeeping in the ancient times.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were dependent upon the phases of the moon and sunrise and sunset. And so the moral of this business of how far you can go before it's dark means that you need to exert some intention, some planning. Well, if I run, I can get to thus and such a distance, and here is when I should start. Or if I can't run, this is when I should start, that is somewhat earlier. So that means we need to be observant of the features of nature around us and do what we need to do and use our own good sense to do it.
Okay. Miriam?
I'm a little reminded of a canoeing experience where the outfitter was cautioning us about what turn to take about 5 days into a trip, where there were two rivers in close proximity coming out of a lake. And he said, there's this enormous white pine at the mouth of the easternmost river. And we are in the Superior National Forest where, let's say, there are many, many enormous white pines. And we got to it and we went from one river to the other and we knew which was the east. And there, lo and behold, is this enormous white pine. A few years later, we were in the same spot. And we hadn't gone through it with the outfitter. And we knew we were on the easternmost river and the pine tree was gone. And we kept saying, but where's the huge white pine? And when we got back to the outfitter a few days later, he said, oh yeah, it fell over in a storm. This guy, for some reason, knew every single landmark in the boundary waters. But it's another issue of if all of your landmarks are natural features and your sense of time. I went to see the place where I had gone to camp on my honeymoon. When I was a little girl, I'd gone to this camp and it's gone now. But I found the land and I realized I had no idea where anything was because we had never been allowed to have watches or clocks. And they manipulated the time so that it always was sunset at bedtime for an 8-week season. And I realized I had no idea how far anything was. I remember things being far away, but I was walking it as an 8-year-old. And I'm trying to remember it now as a 24-year-old. So Jay is right on, as usual.
Okay, very good. So we should continue seeing what the rabbis had to say. Laurie, would you like to read? Laurie, you're muted.
Okay.
Okay.
The Gemara comments, but it is not so. That is not the opinion of Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi only taught it as if it is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yosef, so that Rav Yosef would accept it from him, due to the fact that Rabbi Yosef's reasoning accompanies his ruling. Since the halakha is usually in accordance with Rav Yosef's opinion, Rav Yosef would be less likely to raise doubts with regard to the ruling.
Okay, before we go forward, does anyone notice the coincidence of the statement?
Yeah, that it was political. I mean, that he wants to.
So I guess this would be analogous of if I felt like I needed to say something that was important in Emanuel's community, I would have to say, well, this is something that Rabbi Craig would agree with.
Right.
And then Rabbi Craig, well, I don't know that he would do this, would have to say that this was something that Rabbi Shalman would have agreed with, and so on.
There's something at the bottom about it.
Yes. Okay. Down in the notes section.
Right.
Okay. And which piece of the
Want me
notes?
to read it? You want me
Yes.
to read it?
Please read it for us. That'd be great.
It is reasonable to rule in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yosef, despite the fact that several sages disagree with him, as several authorities accept Rabbi Yosef's opinion as the halakha, even when he is opposed by more than one of his colleagues. Since Rabbi knew that this was clearly the halakha, he cited it in the name of the well-known sage, so that his statement would be accepted. In our version of the Tosefta, however, the opinion is explicitly ascribed to Rabbi Yosef.
Super. I see Miriam has her hand up, but her video's dark. Miriam, are you there?
I am here, and I had my hand up previously, so I didn't take it down. I'm sorry.
No problem. Okay. All right. With that being the case, Devora, would you like to read? And I'll scroll back up.
We learned in the Mishnah.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
just read the point that addressed a sort of political situation.
Right. So we learned in the Mishnah.
Okay, great. Yeah, hit it.
Do me a favor. Don't move the screen while I'm reading.
No problem. I will.
Thank you. We
Okay.
learned in the Mishnah, if one is not familiar with a tree or any other noticeable landmark, or if he is not an expert in the halakha, unaware that residence can be established from a distance, and he said, my residence is at my current location, his presence at his current location acquires for him the right to walk 2,000 cubits in each direction. So my question is, how often does he get to say that?
Okay. Good morning, Deborah. Okay.
Do we know how often you get to say that? Just a question.
Right.
Because if you're walking and you've gone what you think are 2,000 cubits because you're not dragging a string behind you,
or
you
putting
say that?
breadcrumbs.
well, even then you'd have to measure. So
I know. I'm just saying.
well, or a pedometer or something. You know, your stride. So just curious how people figured that out.
That's a very interesting question.
In one of our last passages, they defined it. They said that a cubit is roughly 1 step.
And I checked out, it's 18 inches. So it's this, if you stretch your arms out from left to right, that's the length of 2 cubits.
18 inches is 1.5 feet, and that's a really big foot.
Yeah, but that's what
My foot sure isn't.
Nor is mine. Nor is Bob's, and he's got big feet.
All right, I got big shoes to fill. My feet aren't that big. They're not that big.
She was
Bob-
referring to her Bob.
Oh.
Yeah, no, my Bob. Sorry, Bob.
Your Bob. Oh, your Bob. He's got big feet.
Okay, very good. Let me scroll up a bit.
Wait. Before we leave Bob's calculation, which is exactly right, let me translate it into the English system measurements that we think of.
Okay.
If a cubit is 1.5 feet, that is 18 inches, 2,000 of those is 3,000 feet.
Okay.
So then, what fraction of a mile is that? If you put 3,000 over 5,280 feet, which is a mile, it turns out to 0.56 miles.
0.6. Yeah.
0.56, yeah.
All right.
So half
Very
a mile,
good.
a little more than half a mile, yeah.
Right.
All right.
But not so far,
So, Miriam,
or two
would you like
blocks,
to read for us?
4 blocks. 4
Very-
city blocks in the city, in Chicago.
Can you make it bigger, please?
Absolutely. Let me zoom in. Is that helpful?
That's great. The
Okay.
Gemara,
Yes.
the Gemara raises a fundamental question. These 2,000 cubits, where are they written in the Torah? The Gemara answers that it is as it was taught in a Baraita, remain every man in his place. These are the 4 cubits, which constitute the minimum Shabbat limit. Essentially, if you turn around with your arms outstretched.
Yeah.
For example, for one who ventured beyond his prescribed limit, let no man go out of his place. These are the 2,000 cubits of the Shabbat limit for one who remains in his place. Unless otherwise specified, the measure of one's place is 2,000 cubits.
Very good. Let me scroll to see if there's more related.
There's
that.
something in the notes.
Right here, the 2,000 cubits. Up a little
Okay,
more.
like right here.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, Miriam, would you like to read that comment
These
too?
2,000 cubits, where are they written? Even according to the majority of commentaries who maintain that the 2,000 cubit limit is rabbinic in origin, it still may be asked, on what did the sages base their determination of this measure?
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Can you
yes.
go back and move this to the right? The notes to the right?
Like this?
Yes. And we're,
Can somebody mute whatever is that TV, please?
Jimmy, you gotta turn that down.
Thank you.
All right, let me
I was
close.
trying, no, that's
That's
me.
me, yeah. I'm just
Yeah,
kind of I've got a lot of tabs open.
I was just trying, where were he to run to the trunk of the tree? I was just trying to understand that.
Okay. So Deborah, we read at the beginning that somebody could run to the trunk of the tree to establish an Eruv for Shabbat.
Okay.
So that we're dealing with conversation in regards to that, the details of that.
Okay.
So anyway, would anyone like to say any comment, or should we go on and read more?
one.
Okay, very good. So there's a very large section of Gemara. Let me zoom out a little because there's so much of it.
Yeah, then you can't read it.
Okay,
There-
I'll zoom in again right now. Is that good? Can everyone read it?
No, you can move it to the right. Yeah, right there.
There.
Okay. Very good. All right. So, Deborah, would you like to read this Gemara for us? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Deborah, you're muted.
Yeah, I
And-
know.
Okay, good.
The Gemara asks, from where do we derive that this is the measure of one's place? Rab Hasidah said, we derive this by means of a verbal analogy between the term place written here. Let no man go out of his place, and from the term place written with regard to an unwitting murderer. Then I will appoint you a place to where he should flee. This last verse mentions both place and fleeing, and the term place is derived from the term fleeing. And the term fleeing is derived from the term fleeing, written in a different verse with regard to the unwitting murderer. But if the slayer shall at any time come outside the border of the city of his refuge, whither he has fled, and the term fleeing is derived from the term border, which appears in the same verse, and the term border is derived from the term border as it states there. And the avenger of blood find him outside the borders of the city of his refuge. Since this verse mentions both the term border and the term outside, the term border is derived from the term outside, and the term outside is derived from the term outside, and it is written with regard to the Levite cities, which also served as cities of refuge. And you shall measure from outside the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, and on the south side 2,000 cubits, and on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits. From this change of identical terms, the meaning of the term place, stated in connection with Shabbat, is derived from the 2,000 cubits mentioned with regard to the Levite cities.
Okay, that's a lot. That's some very good information from the Torah. Does anyone have any thoughts before we continue?
This is an exercise to establish where the 2,000 cubits was mentioned in the Torah. And so they had this whole chain of vocabulary to get us back to the Levite cities.
And the rabbi's name at the beginning is Chista. Just so you know, the dot underneath is for a het. If you look at the term, there's a dot, right?
I have a question that just came up regarding the cities.
You just muted.
Yeah, I'm unmuted now. Thank you. And that is these cities of refuge. So this is where people flee to so they could save their skin and then resume what we would call normal living and pursuing whatever they were doing before or whatever.
Only if it was accidental, not if it was deliberate.
Only if it was accidental.
Yes, you can't, if you can't murder somebody and then flee to a city of refuge.
Because I was wondering, what kind of rule of law is there?
No, it's accidental. Like if you hit somebody and they have a brain tumor and it kills them, that's accidental. Your intent was not to kill. Your intent was to hurt.
So then that person who has fled and is now safe in the city from whoever wants to avenge them, they will never be able to leave the compound or within the 2,000 cubits beyond the compound's limits for the rest of the living life of the avenger or the avenger's relatives.
Correct.
So that means that an accidental murderer, we would call it that.
No. Murder is deliberate. Accidental
killer. Okay, yes. The accidental killer. Thank you. The accidental killer, that means they would have left their children, possibly their wife, and their whole family somewhere else to save their skin.
Correct.
So there was no way then to make things right other than, how do you make things right then? You can't. You're stuck.
Well, you can possibly talk to the person, the relative of the person you killed accidentally, and come to some kind of agreement or something, but your family could also join you.
Okay. Thank you.
Devorah, does the Jubilee year cancel that guilt?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
I think it would have to do more with the person who wants to avenge. It's their
Yeah.
problem that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the family of the, right, of the one
Yes,
who was
it's
hurt.
them who have to wrestle with what are we going to do for the rest of our living lives. Problem.
Okay. I'll read the Gemara asks. The Gemara asks, but let us derive instead by means of a verbal analogy between the term outside in the verse, outside the borders of the city of refuge, and the term outside of in the verse from the wall of the city outward, the chutzah, 1,000 cubits, from Numbers 35:4, that the Shabbat limit measures only 1,000 cubits. The Gemara answers, one derives the meaning of the term outside, chutz, by means of a verbal analogy from another instance of the term outside, chutz, but one does not derive the meaning of the term outside from the term outward, chutzah. So it seems there's some discussion of language. Linda, would you like to read where the Gemara raises a difficulty?
Sure. The Gemara raises a difficulty. What is significant about the difference between the two terms? Didn't the school of Rabbi Yishmael teach a verbal analogy with regard to leprosy of houses between the verse, and the priest shall return, the shav, and the priest shall come, uva, from which it is derived that this is the halakha with regard to returning, i.e. it is after 7 days. This is the same halakha with regard to coming. It is after 7 days. Obviously, the less pronounced difference of one letter between chutz and chutzah should not prevent the teaching of a verbal analogy.
Okay, very good. Should we go on? That doesn't seem like the most significant point, but if someone sees anything else in it.
More confusion.
Okay.
The next paragraph answers it.
Okay, very good. Jay, how would you like to read the next paragraph for us?
Gemara rejects this argument. This applies only when there are no terms that are identical to it, however. Where there are terms that are identical to it, however. Where there are terms that are identical to it, we derive the verbal analogy from terms identical to it, rather than from the terms that are not precisely identical. What I gather from this is that it says, don't accept half an answer, insist upon the real thing. A set of words that differs from one another might be okay if you have nothing else, but if you can find an identical match, stick to it.
All right. Very good. Reuben, how would you like to read this next paragraph, the Tanaim? The Tanaim?
The Tanaim of the Mishnah disagree whether the 2,000 cubit limit granted to a person in every direction is measured as a circle or as a square tablet. The Gemara poses a question with regard to the opinion of Rabbi Hanina ben Antigonus that the limit is measured as a circle, no matter what you say. It is difficult. If he is of the opinion that there is a verbal analogy from the verse written with regard to the Levite cities, it is difficult because sides is the term written indicating square boundaries. If he is not of the opinion that there is a verbal analogy, from where does he derived that Shabbat limit is 2,000 cubits.
All right. Thank you very much, Ruben. There is this drawing, this schematic here, for everyone to see. Does everyone see it?
Mhm.
All right. Okay, great. Thanks for reading for us, Ruben. So, does anyone have any thoughts on this situation before we continue? Okay, Bob, how would you like to continue with the Gemara answers?
Thank you. The Gemara answers, actually, he is of the opinion that there is a verbal analogy, but here, with regards to the Levite cities, it is different, as the verse says. This shall be to them the open space of the cities, from which it is inferred to this, the open space of the city, you should provide sides and square it. But you do not provide sides to those resting on Shabbat. Instead, those who establish Shabbat residence are provided with a circular 2,000 cubit limit.
All right.
I like that.
Let me scroll down to the notes. Or scroll. Let's see.
To the side.
Yeah.
Wait, you're on the next page.
Okay, hold on.
The other way.
Like to
There we
the
go.
left.
Yes.
Let me zoom out for a second.
Go up a little bit.
Up.
What are we looking for?
But the 2,000 cubits.
Didn't we do that?
I see it. I don't see it.
Background, above the
Background.
circle.
Above the circle. Yes. Okay, very
Right
good.
there.
Hold on. Let me make that large.
Yes,
Okay, go ahead. Bob, did you want to read that as well?
Sure. There are different opinions with regard to the measurement of the 2,000 cubit limit. According to the rabbis, the 2,000 cubits form a square, while Rabbi Hanina ben Antigonos maintains that they are circular. Some say that the 2,000 cubits form a square, but since there is no indication of how to place the square, the authorities permitted to proceed to the edge of a circle whose diameter is the diagonal of a square whose sides are each 2,000 cubits. So what they're saying is draw a radius of 2,000. Is that a radius? I don't know. 1,000. Oh, we're looking at something else. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The diagonal shown in the diagram can be calculated by using the Pythagorean theorem. According to the theorem, the sum of the areas of the two squares on the legs, the right sides of the triangle, equals the area of the square on the hypotenuse, the longest side of the right triangle. Therefore, in our case, I'm lost.
Uh-huh.
But I get the picture.
Yeah,
I understand that.
picture is worth 1,000 words.
For me, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Thank you, Len.
I always like the Pythagorean theory. I don't know, maybe.
So, okay, just a second. Let me close down one more of my windows. They have too many open. Okay, very good. Okay, let me close down one more of my email program.
I like the way yours closes it. Interesting.
All
Like
right.
turning a page.
Okay, so now that we did all that, Lori, how would you like to read the Gemara asks?
Sure. The Gemara asks, and how do the rabbis understand the emphasis placed on the word this in the verse? The Gemara answers, as it was taught in a Baraita, the Rebbe Hanania says, like this measure shall be the calculation of measures for all those who rest on Shabbat. That is square, i.e. square.
Yep.
Okay, Devorah, how would you like to continue with Rav Acha?
Rav Acha Bar Yaakov said, one who carries an object 4 cubits in the public domain is only liable if he carries it 4 cubits with their diagonal. The 4 cubits mentioned in many places is the only basic measure by which distance beyond which it is prohibited to carry is calculated. However, in practice, a person is liable only if he carries the object the length of the diagonal of the square with 4 cubit sides. Great.
Okay, should I scroll around to try to find the note, or should we continue with the main text?
Well, we can read the note if you want.
Okay, if you've got it, let's
Yeah,
hear
I
it.
do. They with their diagonal. There are 3 opinions among the commentaries with regard to this basic issue. Rashi, Tosafot, and the Rashba explain that this additional diagonal depends on the direction in which one wishes to proceed. In other words, one may only walk 2,000 cubits to the east or west, but to the northeast he may advance up to a little over 2,800 cubits. He adds that the same principle applies to all measures. Rabbeinu Tam and other commentaries contend that the calculation is based on the measurement with its diagonal in every direction, and that all the established measurements refer to the basic length without the diagonal. Yet other commentaries maintain that one is only liable by Torah law for the measurement with its diagonal, but proceeding beyond the basic measure is prohibited by rabbinic law. Alternatively, they distinguish between the cases mentioned in this context, for example, 4 cubits and the other halakot of Shabbat. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Devorah.
That was really clarifying.
Not.
Deborah, how would you like to read for us with Rav Papa and that said that Rava?
Are we skipping?
Skipping. Did I miss something?
Did we read Rav Acha?
Yes.
I
Okay,
thought we did, because then there was
Oh,
the
yeah.
math, there was the math discussion of the math.
correct. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, Deborah. So if you let's hear about Rav Papa.
Rav Papa said that the Rabbah once tested us by asking, with regard to a pillar in the public domain, 10 handbreadths high and 4 handbreadths wide, must the width be 4 handbreadths with their diagonal in order to be regarded a private domain or not? And we said to him, is this not that which was taught by Rab Hanania,
Uh-huh.
as it was taught in the Baraita? Rab Hanania says, like this measure shall that be of all those who rest on Shabbat, indicating that the diagonal is the determining measure of that for the halakot of rest on Shabbat.
Okay, very good. Let me scroll to the bottom of the page to see if there's halacha that goes along with that. Or let's see. It looks like it's here on the right side of the page. I think this is the halacha, they with their diagonal.
Yep.
Okay, Deborah, would you like to read that too for us?
Sure. They with their diagonal, one who carried an object 4 cubits in the public domain is only liable if he transfers it the length of the diagonal of a 4 cubit square, which is 5.6 cubits. It is permitted to carry it less than that distance. Rab Shimshon of Sames, Tosafot, Rosh, Razba, Rav Avad, Some authorities state that it is only permitted to carry within circle of a 4-cubit radius. If one walked any further, he is exempt from punishment or from bringing a sin offering, but it is permitted to do so.
Prohibited.
But is prohibited to do so. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. If one walked any further, he is, wait, go back. He is exempt from punishment, so he's not going to be punishment or for bringing a sin offering, but it is prohibited to do so. So
Yeah.
you can't do it, but if you did do it,
You wouldn't be punished.
you won't be punished, or you won't be considered bringing a sin offering.
You won't have to, yeah.
You would have
I
to do
think Halacha is saying this is still not what a person is supposed to do, but they won't be
Punished,
punished.
or you won't have to bring a sin offering,
Yes.
but you're really not supposed. So if you, so basically this halakha doesn't mean anything.
in this situation.
Well, I don't know if it would quite go that far. You could argue that. Why don't we continue
Wait,
reading?
before we go there,
Yeah.
can I just ask a question? Because I've never had an answer yet.
Well,
Is that, how do you bring a sin offering when there's no
Temple.
temple?
That's a good point.
I have not gotten an answer to that question.
I think that because there isn't a temple and you can't bring a sin offering, and that negates the sin offering concern. So in that regard, that would be another reason why this is kind of invalid, because there's no temple to bring a sin offering to.
Well, somebody could say, here's a Kohen, go ahead, give it to him.
And what would be the punishment?
The sin offering.
So is that why it's written in there like that?
Well-
No, because they assumed that we would eventually have the temple and have to worry about it again.
And I also think it's possible that the rabbis could have come up with other forms of punishment.
Is a sin offering a punishment?
Yes,
It's like paying a fine. You think?
literally it is, because you have to give something for the priest to sacrifice, and you don't get to eat it.
Right.
Does the priest?
All right.
This is a lot like wearing masks right now and how far you should be from other people in public. There's actually not a punishment for not wearing the mask. And what if it's over? What if it's slipped a little? And what if it's not enough layers of cloth? And what if you brush by somebody who's running in the opposite direction? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. What if it slips
My
off?
friend in Australia says that the police walk around, and if you are more than 2,000 cubits from your house, it's actually 1.5K. You need to give them your credit card right now to pay the fine, which is $1,000 fine.
My
Yikes.
God.
Okay.
They charge for everything and
Well, but let's face it, you got to hit people in the pocketbook.
if you don't vote in Australia, you get fined.
Yeah, I know. A lot of places you have to you have to vote.
All right. So we should continue.
Go down.
Okay. Lori, did you want to read? Or Lori is stepped off for a second.
Ben, before we go on, I had one observation that the
Yes.
diagram all the way at the left-hand side of the page brought to my mind. And that is that the circle, the radius that gives a distance a person may walk is with regard to a mobile person who is not fixed. The square, it seems to me, referred to the city which is fixed walls. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
And that's a limit outward. And so I think it invites us to think about what we do when we're talking about each different kind of thing, a mobile person or a city.
Okay, very good.
So there, I'm back.
Okay, very, very good, Lori. So now that you're back, I have to kind of fine rework because we went to look at the diagram again.
On the next page, yeah. Are we on the next page?
Yeah, I think we're on,
I think it said we learned in the Mishnah.
yeah, I think that's where we're at. I think we're at, we learned in the Mishnah, and this is the meaning of which the sages said.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay.
We learned in the Mishnah, and this is the meaning of that which the sages said. A pauper can establish an Eruv with his feet, that is, i.e., one who does not have the bread required to establish an Eruv may walk anywhere within his Shabbat limit and acquire residence. We have this leniency in effect only for a pauper who does not have food for 2 meals. However, one who has bread may only establish residence with bread. Rabbi Yehuda says this leniency is in effect for both a pauper and a wealthy person.
Okay, so we have two rabbis with some different opinions on this whole situation. Is that obvious from what Lori just read?
Mm-hmm.
All
The
right.
sages say one thing and the rabbi says another.
Okay.
Or no, he agrees. Okay.
Yes.
I have a question because
Yes.
I've read this before and I was wondering. I walk by rarely, most of the time I drive by, people who have established their residence in a tent in the park, all over the city, wherever we're at, and other cities as well, or on the streets, under the
Or under a
viaduct.
bridge, or under a bridge.
Yes. So, are they exempt because they possess whatever it is they can wheel around in their shopping carts or whatever, a wheel device or carry? Or is a pauper someone who doesn't have anything? Where do we remember in reading who is the pauper? We read because they don't have 2 meals. Many of those people who have acquired whatever they've drawn around them to keep them warm today still don't have food or good clothing. So are they paupers too, or are they beyond pauperhood?
Well, Babs, you brought up a very good point. How would you like to read a pauper and a wealthy person?
Okay.
And the Hebrew word for pauper is oni, which is used in other places in Talmud in describing this pauper. So if you'd like to read the Talmud's concept of a pauper, that would be great.
Oni. That's sort of like Honi, the circle drawer.
Right.
Yeah, it's phonetically, right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Oni. The pauper mentioned in this context is not necessarily a person in dire financial straits. Rather, anyone traveling who intends to establish his residence in a location he has determined for himself is considered a pauper in terms of this halacha, as it can be assumed that he does not have with him all that he requires for a meal. So a meal and possessions are different. The reverse is also true. One who is at home on Shabbat evening but establishes Eruv in order to go to the next day is considered a wealthy person. The proof is from the inhabitants of Shechin mentioned in the Baraita. Although they were going to receive charity, they were still considered wealthy with regard to the Eruv. That does answer the question. Thank you.
Okay. So, very good. Right now, I'll go back from the notes to where we were. Okay, so I'll scroll up to right here. Is there anyone else who would like to read next? Ruben, how would you like to read Rav Nachman? Unmute yourself. You're muted. Okay, there.
Rav Nachman said, this dispute between Rav Meir and Rabbi Yehuda is with regard to the case where a person said, my residence is in my current location. As Rabbi Meir maintains, the primary ordinance and establishment of Eruv is with bread.
Okay. Now we're gonna go to what would be the second page, or the second side of the page, the B side of the page. And Miriam, would you like to read therefore?
Therefore, it is only with regard to a pauper who does not have food for 2 meals that the sages were lenient and permitted him to establish residence merely by saying, my residence is in my current location. However, with regard to a wealthy person in his own house who has bread, no, they did not permit him to do so.
Okay. Does anyone have any thoughts before we continue? Linda, how would you like to continue with and Rabbi Yehuda maintains?
And Rabbi Yehuda maintains the primary ordinance of an Eruv is by foot, i.e. by going and stating he is establishing his residence in that location. Therefore, it applies to both a pauper and a wealthy person. However, with regard a case when the person says, my residence is in such and such a place, and he is not there, everyone, both Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, agrees that for a pauper on the road on a Shabbat Eve, yes, an Eruv may be established in that manner. However, for a wealthy person, no, an Eruv may not be established in that manner.
Okay, I see there's an NH.
Right next to it, yeah.
Is
There it
that,
That's it.
yeah, okay, would you like to read this halacha?
My residence in such and such place. If one says my residence is in such and such place without going there and placing an Eruv there, it is only valid if he was on the road on Shabbat Eve. It is not effective for one who remains at home, as per the opinion of Rabbi Nachman, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda and the explanation of Rashba.
All right. Very good. So, we will move along. Jay, how would you like to read for us? And as for the Mishnah statement?
And as for the Mishnah statement, and this is what the sages meant when they said that a pauper can establish an Eruv with his feet. Who, which sage is teaching it? It is Rabbi Meir. And to which clause of the Mishnah is it referring? It refers to the previous statement. If he is not familiar with a tree or any other noticeable landmark, or if he's not an expert in the halakha, and therefore is unaware that a residence can be established from a distance, and said, my residence is my current location, he acquires 2,000 cubits in each direction. And as for the statement in the continuation of the Mishnah, the sages said that one establishes an Eruv with bread only to be lenient with the wealthy person. Who, which sage is teaching it? It is Rabbi Yehuda, who maintains that the option of establishing an eruv by foot is available to the wealthy as well.
All right. Should I scroll around to try to find the note corresponding with the word lenient?
It's right next, it's right there. It's right to the left there.
All right. Jay, would you like to read this note? You're muted, Jay.
They said that one establishes an eruv with bread only to be lenient. The early commentaries ask,
One at the top, isn't it?
am I in the wrong one?
Yeah, this is what they said.
Actually, I think Jay was on the right one. I think we might have missed
Oh.
the one above because that's
Oh,
corresponding.
okay, sorry. Go
But
on.
it's no problem. Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
The commentaries ask, according to the opinion of Rabbi Chisda, that a person may sit in his house and say, my eruv is in such and such a place. What is the leniency of establishing an eruv with bread? The answer, that it remains a leniency for one who is not familiar with the place and therefore cannot establish his residence there. However, sending a messenger to place his meal there is also effective.
I have to tell you
Yes.
that there was a siyum for Eruvin last week because the Daf Yomi people finished it last Monday, and one of them was talking about, one of the rabbis who spoke was talking about working on an eruv in the city where they lived, and one of the other rabbis mentioned that he has a box of matzah in a corner of his cabinet that is the eruv for his area. And I thought, interesting, because matzah lasts forever. It's not bread, but it's close.
Very interesting. Okay. Bob, how would you like to read Rav Chisda? Unmute yourself, please.
Guys, I have to go. It's after 10.
It's 10 o'clock.
Okay, Devorah, thank you very much. We'll see you.
Enjoy your birthday day.
Yes.
See you at services.
Yeah,
Okay.
I won't see you, but I'll be there.
Yes, I know. We'll see you.
Bye.
All right, happy birthday.
All right.
Okay. Rav Chisda, however, disagreed with Rav Nachman and said the dispute between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah is with regard to a person who said, my residence is such and such a place, in which his residence is neither acquired by foot nor by bread. As Rab Meir maintains, a pauper, yes, he establishes residence with an eruv in that manner. However, a wealthy person, no, he does not. And Rabbi Yehuda maintains, both a pauper and a wealthy person may establish an eruv in that manner. However, in the case where one said, my residence is in my present location, everyone, both Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, agrees that an eruv of this kind is effective both for a pauper and for a wealthy person, as everyone agrees that the primary ordinance of eruv is by foot.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much. Deborah, how would you like to read? And as for the Mishnah statement, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Trying to.
Okay. Very good.
As for the Mishnah statement, and this is what the sages meant when they said that a pauper can establish an eruv by foot. Who is teaching it? It is Rabbi Meir. And to what clause of the Mishnah is it referring to? It is referring to this clause. One who was coming along the way on Shabbat Eve, and it grew dark while he was traveling. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he could have established an Eruv even if he was in his house. And as for the statement in the continuation of the Mishnah, the sages said that one establishes an Eruv with bread only in order to be lenient with the wealthy person who is teaching it. Everybody agrees with this halakha, and it is taught according to both opinions.
Okay.
very good. I'll scroll up. Lori, would you like to read the comment from the Gemara?
Where?
The Gemara
The
comment?
Gemara comment, sorry. The Gemara comments, a Baraita was taught in accordance with the opinion of Rav Nachman, who said that the dispute between, isn't this what we just read?
No, I think we just
Okay,
read was a,
okay, who said that the dispute between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda is with regard to one who said, my residence is in my present location. It was stated that the Baraita, both a pauper and a wealthy person, establish an eruv with bread. However, a wealthy person may not go out beyond the Shabbat limit and say, my residence is in my present location, because the sages said that one can establish an eruv by foot only in the case of a person who was coming along the way and it grew dark while he was traveling. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir.
okay. So does anyone have any thoughts on that before we go on?
The impression that I got is that the wealthy person may not just say, this will be my eruv, and do nothing about it. That's sort of a lazy and non-intentional point of view.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if he sends bread or if he walks by foot, that validates his eruv. The pauper doesn't have anything except his feet and himself, and so he goes there. I think this is a warning against the inaction of talk and no actual deed.
Okay, very good. So, thank you very much. Jay, Reuben, would you like to read what Rabbi Yehuda says about this? Reuben?
How about Linda?
Okay, Linda.
Oh, Rabbi Yehuda says both a pauper and a wealthy person establish an eruv by foot. And a wealthy person will go out beyond the Shabbat limit and say, my residence is in my present location. And this is the primary ordinance of eruv. However, the sages permitted a homeowner to send his eruv in the hand of his servant, or in the hand of his son, or in the hand of his agent, in order to be lenient with him, so that he need not exert himself and go out and establish an eruv by foot.
How about lazy?
This parade represents a dispute between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, as it was delineated by Rabbi Nachman.
By Rav Nachman.
What?
By Rav Nachman.
Okay.
Oh, by Rav Nachman. You're right. Sorry.
All right.
I just kept seeing the rabbis, and all of a sudden,
Yeah, I know. Don't worry about it. Just.
Okay, very good. Bob, how would you like to continue with the Baraita continues?
The Baraita continues. Rabbi Yehuda said, there was an incident involving the members of the household of the Memel family and members of the household of the Gurian family in the village of Aroma, who were distributing dried figs and raisins to the paupers in the years of famine. And the paupers of the village of Shechem and the paupers of the village of Hananiah would come to the edge of the Shabbat limit at nightfall, which is also within the Shabbat limit of aroma, and then go home. The following day, they would rise early and go to receive their figs and raisins. Apparently, one can establish an Eruv by foot if he says, my residence is in my present location. 3 cheers for the 2 families.
All right. Very good. Deborah, would you like to read where it says Rav Ashi said? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rav Ashi said, the formulation of the Mishnah is also precise. In accordance with Rab Naaman's explanation, as it teaches, if on a Shabbat Eve one set out to go to a city for which an Eruv is established, enabling him to go there on Shabbat, and another person caused him to return home, he himself is permitted to go to that city on Shabbat, and for all the other residents of the town, it is prohibited to go there. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda.
Okay, very good. I notice there's an N indicating a note. Would you like to read the formulation of the Mishnah is also precise?
Formulation of the Mishnah is also precise. If the Mishnah can be explained only according to Rabbi Naaman's opinion, how can Rabbi Ishta rule against an explicit Mishnah? The answer is that Rabbi Ishta maintains that the other inhabitants of the town cannot be included in an Eruv unless they decide their intentions. Consequently, for one who declares that he is establishing a residence for himself, it is a valid Eruv, but not for the others.
Okay. Very good. Lori, would you like to continue with as we discussed this Mishnah?
And we discussed this Mishnah and raised a difficulty. What is different about him and what is different about them? Why is he permitted to proceed to the other town while it is prohibited for the other residents to do so? And Rav Huna said, we are dealing here with a case where he has 2 houses, one in each city, and there is the distance of 2 Shabbat limits, 4,000 cubits between them.
Okay. Very good. Jay, how would you like to continue with regard to him?
With regard to him, since he set out on his way, his legal status is that of a pauper, as he did not intend to return to his first house, but to continue to his other house. Therefore, he can establish residence at the end of his Shabbat limit by verbal means alone.
Okay. Reuben? How are you? Reuben, would you like to read in the legal status of these other inhabitants?
And the legal status of these other inhabitants in his city is with the wealthy people, as they are in their houses and have food. Consequently, they can only establish residence at the Shabbat limit by depositing food there prior onset of Shabbat. Pardon me. Apparently, everything stated with regard to one who says, my residence is in such and such a place, to a pauper, yes, it applies to the wealthy person. No, it does not apply. The Gemara concludes, indeed, learn from this that is the case.
Okay, I'd like to read the next section. Rav Chaya bar Ashi was teaching the Mishnah to Chaya bar Rav before Rav. He stated that this leniency applies both to a pauper and to a wealthy person. Rav said to him, conclude your statement also. The halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Linda, how would you like to read the Gemara relates?
The Gemara relates, Rabba bar Rav Hanan was in the habit of coming from his home in Artibena to Pambedita on Shabbat.
Okay, and somewhere there's a note. Yeah, here it is.
Rabbeinu Hanel explains that he would go to Pambedita to hear Rabbi Yosef's homily every Shabbat. Therefore, it is clear that he did not walk the day before. Rather, he spent Friday night in his own home and walked to Artibenu the following day.
All right.
I think we're finished. Really,
We
aren't we?
should we finish?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, very good. So,
That's my opinion. I don't know what other people think.
okay. Bob, would you like to read this next piece here? He would declare. Bob? Yes.
He would declare on Shabbat Eve, my residence is in Sinta, a settlement located between the Shabbat limits of the two places. Abayas said to him, what is your opinion that led you to act in this manner? It is because the dispute between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, the halacha, is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. And Rav Chisda said, the dispute between these two sages is in a case where the person said, my residence is in such and such a place, and you rely on Rabbi Yehuda and establish residence at a place between the two cities, even though you are still at home? How does he do that?
I don't know. Deborah, would you like to read? But didn't Rava Nachman explain? You muted yourself. Okay.
Didn't Naaman explain the dispute between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda differently? And furthermore, a Baraita was taught in accordance with his opinion. Rabba bar Rab Hanan said to him, I retract my opinion and will no longer do so. Rami bar Hama said, the sages have said that one who established residence by foot has 4 cubits at that location and another 2,000 cubits beyond. However, with regard to one who deposits his Arab in a certain place, there is a dilemma whether he is 4 cubits from the site of his Arab or not.
Okay. I think that's everything we have to study this Shabbat. Does anyone have anything to say? It was great to see everybody today.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben.
No problem.
Thank you, Ben.
Great. Yes, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Good lesson.
Okay. So come join this class next Shabbat.
Will Rabbi be back next week?
I assume so.
Okay.
Okay.
He sent stuff this morning for next, he sent new stuff, so
Yeah,
if you get it, check your email and print it out, whatever.
right.
Okay.
Have a good week, everyone.
You
Yes.
too.
And Shabbat Shalom.
Deborah.
Healthy,
Yes.
stay well,
Yes, healthy. Stay
stay
healthy.
apart.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Rabbi would say, sei gesund.
Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.